All right, here with two of my heroes, Adam and Eddie Ojeda, man. Eddie, it's so nice to have you here. You've been a hero my whole life. We were talking earlier about when I was a kid, there were these bikers that would babysit these kids across the street. When I got into Sabbath and early Def Leppard, they're like, you don't need to listen to that. You need to listen to Twisted Sister. And it was like biker culture in my neighborhood in Jersey where I grew up. It was like cool, and that blew my mind. And that was my first taste before you guys you were on Gem Records, I think, distributed in Plainfield, New Jersey. I still remember the record, what it said, the stickers on it or something.
Yeah, well, the first thing we did our own record release. It was Twisted Sister Records. That's when we did I'll Never Go Up before we got signed, and Bad Boys of Rock and Roll. But, you know, considering we wore makeup, but like I said, it was more of a war paint than makeup. You know, it wasn't like supposed to be glamour. It's supposed to be more like war paint, and which I think obviously that's what it turned into. It started off a little glammy, but then, you know, that wasn't us. You know what I mean? We were more like hard as nails kind of stuff that we were playing, and you know, we actually had a huge biker following, which, you know, you wouldn't think that because we wore makeup, or they thought we were, but they didn't even look at it that way. They just looked at us.
Totally. These were hardcore bikers. Just,
you know, yeah. I mean, Hell's Angels.
Yeah, they came home one night. They were like, Dee, you know what Dee said at the show last night? Dee said, this ain't a fucking movie. I can come out of this screen. And he went and kicked this guy's ass. Like, it was just like they'd come on with quotes and like, oh my God, you hear what we'd be at the pool, like, whoa, this is crazy. I got to see this band. You know what I mean?
Like a lot of time, the Hell's Angels would come to see us, even in England. You know, I met a lot of times we met the presidents of different chapters.
I was saying to someone the other day who I said, if you never saw Twisted Sister live, if you only know Twisted Sister from the radio or MTV, you don't know Twisted Sister. Twisted Sister live, I said to someone at M3 the other day, I said, one of the best live bands you will ever see. They decimate the stage. They destroy everything in their path. It's a serious band. Everyone carries a torch. And Dee, I don't care what you say about Dee. Dee as a front man would just work a crowd like nobody I ever saw. You know, like point guys out. You know, what are you doing? Yelling at guys. The band was in on it, and the crowd is in a fucking feeding frenzy. It's one of the best live rock shows I've ever seen.
Yeah, M3, that one time at M3,
when we did
really on that time. That was, and my shoulder was really hurting, but I don't know. We didn't even talk about it. Everybody just got into that frame of mind, and we just went on stage and, you know, it was
decimated.
One of those nights, yeah.
That show, and I've seen you live, you know, tons and tons of times. That show at M3 was a complete annihilation of that place. Yeah, the place, everyone was like, at the end.
It went really well. And,
it was a good one.
You know, some nights are just like that. I mean, there's nights that I had, like I was telling you before, like the one show in Pennsylvania, where they mic'd there was a big wind and knocked everything down. And then they mic'd the wrong cab. So the whole time almost the whole show, I finally said, move the mic over here. they had a cab mic'd with no sound. So it was just bleeding from the other speaker cabinet that should have been mic'd, but it happens once in a while, you know, you have those technical problems. Everybody has them. I mean, I asked, you know, Brian May or anybody who I asked, if I have like one of these bad nights, because every time I've seen certain bands, they're always like perfect. But if you ask anybody, they all have those nightmare nights where nothing worked, or you blew up 4 or 5 amps in a row. Shit just happens. And
you know what's crazy? I was just doing a gig and I DJ also where I lost my footing, and it's almost, what do you do? How do you perform when you do lose your footing? That's almost it's rougher to figure that out. How am I going to make this work? How do you feel about that? Making those moments come across.
Yeah, you just got to forget it happened and keep pushing ahead, you know, as much as you can. Sometimes you can fix things on the fly, and sometimes it's just you're going to be like that all night, and you got to deal with it and do the best you can. You know, it always bothers the person themselves who it happened to more than the audience ever even noticing.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I was like, "Oh man, that was terrible. I had a bad night." People thought it was a great show, everybody. So sometimes you forget because you're just thinking about your own performance, and when your gear goes bad or something messes up, you know, you get all stressed out and you think it's a lot worse than it actually is because you forget it's a whole band. And having somebody like Dee, you know, is really good because he can really take the attention away from something that's going bad and still make it happen. So it's good to have that kind of front man. There was some nights that he definitely, we had so many technical problems with power and lights and everything, and it still went over because you know, it's knowing how to recover. You got to recover right away, or you know, somebody has to. And having a front man like Dee is very good when you have those technical problems because he knows what to do.
Well, he was like a Roth or a Springsteen where people come back from shows and talk about the raps, like the song. I remember them sitting around talking about he had this brother Jimmy that was on Quaaludes and lost his legs in the snow. And if Jimmy was at the show right now, he'd be and everybody was just sitting around telling this story in late 70s. I'm like, what the fuck is this band? That sounds incredible. I mean, you know, just a master storyteller and a master of connecting the electricity that you guys create with the songs, connecting song to song, because that's what a Roth or Dee does. It's incredible.
Yeah, we always bang them out like one after another, nonstop. Once we start, it's just like a freight train. It's no stopping. You know,
it's a show. It's a powerhouse show. Hey, Britt, I know we were talking about, and you should bring this up. Out of all the rock docs out there, and they're all great, and I love them all, but the Twisted Sister documentary, We Are Twisted Fucking Sister, I thought was so good. And it was because unlike any of the other documentaries, it went from inception of the band just to getting signed. Not, you know, inception, signed, famous, broke, famous again, you know, just from inception to the deal. And it was such an informative documentary. And it really gives you a real flavor of the band and the history of the band. I highly, highly recommend it.
It's a thing about that, you know, the Twisted Effing Sister movie.
You could say fuck.
Okay.
You could say, yeah.
Right? I mean, I think it's X'd out on the billboards or whatever it was. But even if you're not into the band or that kind of music, it's still an interesting thing to watch. The story. It just shows what a struggle it is, you know. Sometimes people say, well, how do you make it? And, you know, I try to explain to people, you bust your ass, you know. It's not easy. It doesn't happen.
You said something great. You said it's just as hard then as it is now. I loved when you said that in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was always hard. It's never been easy, you know. I mean, some people pay for their fame, you know, by the way into it. I don't know, none of us had that kind of money, so you know, we couldn't pay for it.
But in that documentary, you start to taste like, I don't think even Springsteen has one where you taste the shore. You taste all the places of that time. I was a kid looking at the Chatterbox on Seaside Boardwalk, not old enough to go in, but like Zebra, Twisted Sister, Rat Race Choir, even that. You brought even the underdogs in, and it really was like you brought your Southside Johnnies in, and it really painted this picture of what it felt like to be on the East Coast even at that time.
That was a good era, and it happened just before they switched the age to 21, like because the drinking age was 18, which really helped for the bar scene and bands like us at the time. And we got signed, we got a record deal just as that changed, and then we went to Europe. We started our recording career and touring worldwide. So we kind of escaped just at the right time because the whole bottom fell out in the club scene. You know, a lot of bands, they weren't hiring bands anymore. Everything was DJs, and wasn't live music was not alive and well in a lot of suburbs. I mean, it's here in Nashville, it's live music will always be the thing, you know.
Yeah.
But clubs and bars and all the honky tonks. But in New York, especially in Manhattan, there's really no live bar music scene. You have to play in the suburbs. But there was plenty of clubs in the suburbs, in Jersey, Long Island, Connecticut, Westchester County. So there was a good 100-mile radius where bands like us, you know, we could get 2,000 or 3,000 people in the club on like a Wednesday night.
You guys were playing the same play. I remember looking at the Fountain Casino, and one week it was Aerosmith, the next week it was Twisted Sister. It was Aerosmith with the Jimmy Crespo era, but you guys are playing the same places as Aerosmith, and essentially.
Yeah, that's when they went through a rough patch there. For them, it was kind of like going down. For us, it was moving up. You know, because we were like our way up. And the Fountain Casino, one time we got 5,000 people in there. They had all these. They could make it bigger and bigger because it was more like a catering hall. Okay. But they started using it for rock shows, like bands like us and Rat Race. And,
keep in mind, 5,000 people for an unsigned band.
Yeah,
unsigned band. It's unheard of.
On a weekday.
It's unheard of.
And isn't it one part they're like in Adventureland, there's 23,000 people for an unsigned band or something?
23,000 people. I mean, the cops were going nuts. It's a lot of property damage because people were climbing on roofs of all the businesses around there to see the show. They weren't expecting that. And in fact, Kiss was playing the Garden that night. So, and I believe they had a sellout show, and we still got 23,000 people. You know,
that's probably what they had.
Yeah, they had, I think, 17,000. I think it was. But you know, it was like a whole shock to Suffolk County Police. They were like in the fire department. They had no idea this was going to happen. You know, and neither did we. I mean, it was a free concert for Adventureland. We thought, okay, the place will be packed, but they didn't expect. Like people were leaving their cars all over the place. It was insane. And
it was the Woodstock of Long Island.
Yeah, Richie Blackmore lived in Huntington at the time, and he was on his way to come to see the show. He turned around and went back home.
Oh my God!
He said he couldn't get near the place, you know. So it was just one of those things. There was a bunch of people that we like, some friends that couldn't make it because they said they couldn't get through. You know, so it probably could have been maybe 30,000 people. There's so many people that never made it. You know, there was cars parked all over 110. It was insane. It really was like this whole thing ascended. Nobody was expecting that. Neither were we. We were like, but what happened was it was Adventureland, so it was all ages. So now all the kids that heard about the band that weren't 18 yet.
That's how I went to concerts. That's how I saw Nugent, because I go to water parks and Great Adventure, see bands, but that were close to me. Yeah, that was the thing.
Right. So that's what happened with Adventureland. But nobody could have ever expected 23,000 people. And it wasn't that big an amusement park, you know. So I could see people on rooftops everywhere. It was insane. One of the most insane things I've ever experienced. And that we weren't signed yet at that time.
Oh my God.
I mean, that's the kicker for me, man. That's what really blows my mind. An unsigned band drawing like that.
And the Academy of Music too. We sold that out. We were the only band that did that without a music video. You know, so.
Britt, you should jump ahead to like after signing, you know, starting to feel their way, and you know, now you're on tour. I think your first tour was with Iron Maiden, wasn't it?
That was our first tour was with Blackfoot and Crocus.
Oh, okay.
One of our first American tours. I think our second tour was a huge tour with Iron Maiden.
And you guys, I got grounded and I had tickets. First concert, you were playing Radio City with Iron Maiden, right, on the Power Slave tour.
Well, actually, Power Slave, we didn't play Radio City with them because we could have sold that out by ourselves.
Oh, okay.
So we didn't do any shows that were in that area. I forgot who they got to open.
Okay, but the rumor was okay.
We didn't open at Radio City, or I think the Spectrum we did in Philadelphia, but I don't think I remember Radio City. They were doing 2 nights there.
Yeah,
and we said, well, you know, we've sold that out by ourselves for 2 nights. and we had already done that.
Yeah.
And, you know, we said, I mean, it would have been cool, but it was just, it was kind of our turf. So
Yeah.
we didn't do those shows, but we toured all of Canada with them, all of Canada and all of the United States. You know, it was like multiple 4 nights at you know, arenas everywhere, Long Beach Arena, every arena you could think of. We both played, and the thing was, we were opening, but the place was packed at 8 o'clock. Like people weren't just strolling in.
Oh yeah, you guys were the just you knew you were bigger than who you were opening for in a way.
You know, Stay Hungry was blowing up. We were selling like 40,000 records a day or something.
Well, you were reaching into us like Alice Cooper. You were actually reaching into us in school. I remember buying some Twisted Sister B- Guide to School Survival, some bananas, but like you were reaching in, getting us through school. It wasn't just adult themes, you know what I mean, about chicks and everything. It was actually school survival with you guys. Like you were speaking to us.
Yeah, the Maiden tour, it's weird because there's so many, that was such a big tour. I think it was almost a year we were, you know, on the road with them. Like it was a long time. And throughout all of Canada, and every night it was packed. And when we hit the stage, it was a full crowd. And some bands wouldn't like, I mean, we used to fire up, Maiden loved it. They wanted us to keep touring with them because we got the crowd so fired up that when they came out, they were ready to go. So some other bands said, well, you killed the crowd, man, they got nothing left. But they loved it because we used to fire them up. So Maiden loved it. They were really great about it. They didn't limit us or anything. And it was just, I still bump into so many people saw that tour. The other day at my son's house, his next door neighbor said, hey man, I saw you in South Carolina with Iron Maiden, the Power Slave tour. And I'm like, in fact, I gave Adam the jacket that they gave.
I was going to bring it up. Wait. I'll send you a picture, Britt. You could add it in.
Yeah, I'll put it on.
I have Eddie's Iron Maiden. It's a leather tour jacket.
Oh my God.
And Eddie signed it in Sharpie, and I framed it. Like, out of all my rock memorabilia, this is right up near the top. Really cool piece. Yeah. And thank you. So I saw Twisted early. My first Twisted show was Twisted opening for Dio on Holy Diver at the TLA in Philadelphia. That was my first show.
Wow.
As a kid.
That's right. We toured with Dio too. That was another pretty big tour. He had that mountain of a stage though, man. It kind of sucked for us.
He had a mountain, but wait, then it was all blacked out. And then right in front of the blackout curtains, you had the pink barbed wire fence with the amps right behind the fence. And I'm standing there going, oh, what's this going to be? And I remember Twisted coming out in my first one as a kid. I was like, I don't believe what I'm looking at. I don't believe this. And years before I became friendly with Eddie, everyone was great in the band. I go, that's the guy. I go, that's the guy. Everyone's rocking, everyone's digging. I go, that's the guy though. And he was like this very,
dude, the
very
bullseye
serious
guitar, which is so mean.
The original bullseye.
The original. Bullseye. That's the original.
It's funny because when I got that guitar, I never thought it would become this iconic thing. And it's just so recognizable. Like people may not even know my name, but they see that guitar and they say,
"Yes." How'd the guitar come to be? I knew I could have researched it, but I wanted to hear from you guys. How'd it come to be?
Well, basically, that's when Charvel guitars had just come out.
Yeah.
And I went to a store called Grayson's, and they said, "Hey, you know, these guys are doing custom guitars, hot rodded Strat body guitars, you know, with humbucker pickups." And I was like, "Wow, it's really cool." I saw some great paint jobs. And at that time, their catalog was a one-page flyer with a picture of all the guitars they had. And my bullseye guitar is on that flyer. I have it. I should have framed it somewhere, but you know, I have it somewhere. But that was the first bullseye guitar I ever made. And you know, when I just thought our logo is looks like a bullseye.
Yeah.
You know, it's got the TS, and we used to have these Sound City cabs, and we painted the pink and pink circles around the speakers. So that was kind of the theme, you know, and so I wanted something to match the logo. So I said, you know, send me a guitar with pink and black circles. So that's when they did the bullseye. I wasn't sure if what they were gonna do. I just said make pink and black circles. I wanted something to match the stage. And when I got it, everybody flipped out. They went, "Oh my God, a paint job! That's so unusual." And I had no idea that, you know, that people have tattoos of that guitar.
Oh, it's incredible. It's like as a kid, it felt like I had moved on from candy. You know, you go to the candy aisle as a kid and it puts you in a good mood, to Eddie Ojeda's guitar. It's just like, oh, just so mean.
It's funny because I never expected that to happen. You know, I think a few people got jealous of the fact that it got so much attention, but it wasn't something I did to say, "Hey, look at me." It was
Yeah. I
just matched. It worked.
Just something I did to match for the good of the band. It turned into like this whole
a symbol.
And Adam, what do you and Eddie work on together? What do you guys mostly when you're working on? You speak so much of, you know, you guys are always talking and everything. What do you guys work on together?
When it's sound, guitars,
tones, sound. I build a couple guitars for him, or I'll upgrade other guitars for him. And it's all about just whatever he plays, we make it sound and play at its top level. And
yeah.
And Eddie's one of those artists, and I work with a lot of artists. When Eddie and I get down on a guitar, he's so locked in on the littlest stuff. He's, you know, some guys I'm like, chick, try it. They're like, cha, perfect. Eddie and I will go back and forth. He's got a great ear. He's got a great sense for tone. And, you know, it works. And we have fun doing it. We have a blast doing it.
It's kind of OCD on it. You know,
I love it.
Comparing pickups and sounds and clean and dirty. And sometimes I think I've surprised you a few times, say, "Hey,
yeah,
guitar this way," and then you go, "Oh shit." And then you try and you go like, "Oh, you're right," you know. Like,
but without giving away the guitar, I'll elaborate on what Eddie's talking about without giving away guitar. So I got a certain guitar recently and I upgraded. It sounded great. And then Eddie got one, sounded great. And I sent it down to him and he goes, "Did you notice this happens when that happens?" And it was a shortcoming of the guitar. And I went, "I didn't try that." So I took my guitar and another guitar that he was talking about, and I shot a little private video just for the two of us as like a sound demo. And I said, "Holy shit, dude, you're dead right." I go, "Now we know how to course correct, you know, problem on guitar A." But he's a stickler, but in it for a good way, because he knows what he's listening to.
It all affects the overall sound, you know. And sometimes when you play with distortion, sometimes there's things that you don't really hear.
Yeah.
But it's there, and things can be kind of brittle or sound. So it's important to kind of compare different things. And sometimes when you do that with different guitars, you really realize, like, you know, what works, what sounds better. And it's just, I mean, that's like an endless thing. You always
never stops.
But I think, what were you going to say?
If you listen through the years to Eddie, who started with a great tone, I mean, record one out of the gate sounded great. But if you listen to him over the years, the tone slightly builds and changes, and it's not done. It's never done. No, and it's always getting better.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And I think growing up on the East Coast, I grew up Jersey. It's a harder, more beast-like mentality, like England. And the day I met Adam, I go, "This guy's a fucking beast. He's like the bottom of guitars, you know, like John, but just a fucking thick fucking personality that's just so loving and so large that I feel like that goes into what he makes in guitar tones." And I'm sure you're growing up. We don't get to grow up softies. You didn't grow up in the 70s and 60s being softies in Jersey or Long Island or Philly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was a tough time, you know, and especially in New York. I mean, New York in the 70s was tough. Now 42nd Street used to be, Times Square used to be dangerous. Now it's like this.
I love that. I loved now it's Disneyland.
Yeah, it's Disneyland.
Oh, I loved when it was dangerous.
Yeah,
We would go to 48th Street, all the music shops on 48th. Then you would go through Times Square. Then you'd risk your life and walk down 42nd.
Yeah.
You know,
I used to avoid that block, but man, it was, you walk down 42nd Street, it was so easy.
Man. Hey, Eddie, what was the Twisted Sister house like? I realized in that documentary you guys had a band house. What was that house like, man? Do you remember anything from that time? I mean, there's nothing like the band house, man.
It was an idea we had. Say, we'll live together and write all these songs. I think we got through 2 songs and fought most of the rest of the time. It wasn't a good idea. It lasted a year.
Like a year.
That's a long time for 2 songs.
No, because Metallica had a band house up here too in Cerrito, and it's the same in the middle of suburbia. You guys have the Twisted Sister. It wasn't like in this hipster area. You're like in the middle of suburbia in your band house.
Yeah, we rented a house in Massapequa Park. Nice house. It had a pool and everything. And it was pretty cheap at the time. I think that house, it was like a 4-bedroom house, bi-level, and it had a kidney-shaped pool. So it had a pretty cool, it was nice as far as, but we were playing together every night, living together. It was just, after a year, I mean, we just.
Oh yeah, a year's a good run. Who cooked in the house? Did someone like cook? Do you have family dinner? What was that? Who cooked in that?
Everybody cooked separately,
Really?
It's funny because Dee wrote his name on everything that he bought.
He was that guy. There's always that guy.
He's the name
writer. He's the name writer.
You want to have some potato chips. And he had this bag of potato chips for fucking 6 months on top of the refrigerator. And one day we all said, fuck him, we're going to eat the potato chips. And he actually got all pissed off. I said, it's been there for 6 months with your fucking name on it, halfway through, I said, that's it. Let's eat these potato chips. But it was funny because, we all had our little cupboards.
Yeah.
But he wrote his name on every, like his Campbell's soup, whatever D, everywhere. Like, and, I mean, it was cool. I respected it. But nobody else wrote their names all over everything.
I lived in a band house when there was a guy that write his name, and I took it as a dare. It almost becomes a dare when they write their name on it. You almost want to eat it. You know what I mean?
So, well, him and the drummer at the time used to butt heads, and I think he used to mess with him a bit, like eat his food. I didn't, but I think he did.
Speaking of food, so I grew up in Jersey, and I didn't taste guacamole or salsa till '88 when I moved to LA. I no taco, no nothing. Dude, your hot sauce that Adam hooked me up with, I'm loving the peach. It's the Carolina Reaper. How did this come to be? Because it's really good, man. And we're gonna put links so people can get it. Not only is it great, it's the fucking coolest looking shit ever.
Thanks. It's first I made the cherry habanero, and I did that because there wasn't a cherry hot sauce. Friends with John Rosati, and he had like a wing sauce out.
Okay.
And it's a really good cook and chef. And, I asked him, I said, I'd like to do a hot sauce. And I said, because I couldn't find a cherry one, I said, if you do a cherry one, he said, that's a great idea. So we worked together on it. He would send me stuff back and forth and came up with, the right recipe. So we did that one first. And then that one did really well. So we just decided to do 2 more. And now I'm just doing the peach and the cherry. I was doing the apple, but it was a mild hot sauce. And it's funny because now that I stopped making it, people want it.
Everyone wants it.
Did you grow up eating hot shit? Did you grow like growing up?
Not really, but I always liked hot sauce.
It's not a hot, it's not a burn you hot sauce. It's so flavorful. And so like you could put it on burgers, you could put it on eggs, you put it on tacos, you put it on fish, you put it on anything. And it's the key. And I'm a hot sauce guy and I like hot, but I go for flavor over everything. And the flavor of these is spectacular.
Yeah, the hottest one is the peach. It's like
Yeah, this is pretty hot. This is pretty. I'm a hot sauce guy. I go Ghost Peppers, and by the way, the guitar is on the cover, which I love. Basically, the background. It's so the labeling's so cool.
Yeah. Well, Adam said you got to put the guitar in.
Oh wait, Adam, you had a look at Adam, man. He's right. He's right.
Yeah, he said you got to do, if you're gonna do something on the label, you got to have the guitar on. So I said, yeah, definitely. And
Man,
because it is such a, people just associate it with the band, so like it's almost like the logo. It's almost like its own logo.
Yeah,
it is.
And they've used it in ads for the band. Like my guitar with Twisted Sister Live and a picture of my guitars.
Oh, it's iconic. Yeah, it's like the Eddie Van Halen guitar. It's just one of those. I doubt he thought when he taped up that guitar it was going to be what it was. You know, you just do something and it latches. Being from the heart, it's the best stuff. You know, also, my first Twisted Sister concert was when in Jersey, in Freehold, a bunch of metalheads got together and gathered around the TV to watch the MTV Twisted Sister concert, man. And we were, dude, opening up with What You Don't Know Can't Hurt You. Like, dude, what was that day like? That was in Nassau Coliseum, am I correct? Is that where that was done?
That was in California, I believe.
Okay.
It was Irvine, California.
I think it was.
Irvine and Marty Kalner, the guy who did our videos, directed that one, or he oversaw it for MTV, and that was great. I mean, it was another one where a lot of young kids were able to come because it wasn't a bar. It was like, I think it was a free concert. So once again, it was like overpacked. But you know, it was that was one of the first big TV.
Yeah, it was like you guys and Ozzy. Every week there was starting to be cool concerts. It was a game changer, a big window.
That's when MTV was cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, when that exploded for you, was it weird going home? Because obviously now people are chasing you down at 7-Eleven. Was it weird? Because, you know, now you go home, you're a figure, man. You still are to this day, but you're a figure. At that point, you're like in everybody's life 24/7. Was that wild?
Well, not so much because because we wore makeup and the outfits, people didn't recognize me a lot. You know, you have to really know the band to recognize me. You know,
okay.
But the one who has always been recognized the most is Dee. You know,
yeah.
It doesn't bother me if I don't get recognized. I know it bothers some of the other guys, but it doesn't bother me at all. You know?
It's probably cool. I have a friend that's in a big band, and he loves that he's just recognized like 5 miles from the arena, and then when he walks away, it goes down a little bit, and he loves it. Says it's a great life. You know what I mean? That way.
Eddie puts on a hat and a ponytail and a pair of, and you wouldn't know if he doesn't have, you know, the colors and this, that. He goes incognito a little. Oh, can I tell a great story?
Yeah.
I'll just touch on it. Eddie and I were, sorry in advance. Eddie and I were coming home from Nashville one time, and we had a delay on our flight. So we're sitting in the bar. The bar is crowded in the Nashville airport, and it's a bunch of rockers in the bar, and we're having some drinks, and everyone's getting loose. And someone mistook Eddie for Gene Simmons. Do you remember, dude? Do you remember this?
Yes, I do.
And this girl starts screaming. This drunk girl starts screaming, Gene Simmons. And Eddie's like getting pissed. He's like, no, not Gene Simmons. I even walked over and I pulled the boyfriend aside. I'm like, dude, tell your girl, just take it easy. It's not Gene Simmons. Just leave him alone. Who is it? I go, it's not Gene Simmons. Leave him alone. Gene said she wouldn't stop.
Stop. Yeah.
And I whispered to her, I go, dude, it's Eddie from Twisted Sister. We're just having a drink and getting on a flight. It's no big deal. It turns out they were on our flight. And we were flying back to Philly. And the girl got so drunk and belligerent. And the guy's like carrying her from the waist. She's like, I'm going to have people meet you guys at the airport and kick your ass. And Eddie and I are like, okay, let's go.
God.
Like, you know, you're the one bothering us. Why,
right.
Yeah. People kick your ass. I said, maybe people like you out of you when you get off the plane.
That was hysterical. They were on our flight. The whole flight, she was belligerent. It was amazing.
Oh, the nightmare moment when you realize she's on your flight. Jesus. Oh.
That was the best.
Yeah, and then the top of I mean, the boyfriend couldn't control her. She was just
What's
like,
wait, a guy couldn't control his girl? That's weird.
No, she was wild, man. She was drunk out of her mind, and I'll tell you, and mother effer, and
yeah, like on the plane, like I said, what's wrong with this crazy? Then she ended up apologizing just before we got off the plane. I think she started sobering up.
Yeah.
Sometimes the apology is worse than the accosting with people like that.
Just
you
go
get the
home.
over emotional apology. You're just
Go
like,
home, sleep it off. Sleep it off.
You know, you guys sometimes you got to take threats seriously.
Yeah,
I took it seriously.
Yeah,
I was okay.
This crazy bitch called some people up, and you know they're going to meet us at the airport, and we haven't done anything to her. She's been the one harassing us, you know. And,
all right, move on from that one. Just wanted to interject from the drunk girl.
The last one I want to tell you about. It's funny when I was in high school. I used to play a club, Billy O's, in Staten Island on my school nights, and I went on a school night, and AJ Perra was there. He was in Cities at the same time. He was in Twisted Sister, and to me, I saw him in the booth there, and it was like Prince was there. To me, it was like meeting Prince. And dude, he was so cool to us as little dudes, and he talked about Twisted Sister and Cities, and just what a cool dude, man. And you seem like you have that same thing running through you.
AJ was always really nice to everybody. You know, he was very approachable. You know, I mean, most people are under the right circumstances. If people aren't assholes about it, you know what I mean?
AJ was great. AJ was just amazing. What a guy.
And what iconic drum parts that stay with us to this day. It's amazing that mute that lives on, and just the songs start out with just his drums and they speak. That doesn't happen that often.
Yeah, that's one of the top 10 drum intro songs ever. The minute you hear it, just like the cowbell in Mississippi Queen. When you hear, you know right away what's coming.
Do you remember him coming up with that? What that was like?
Well, Dee just said, and this is another thing where I feel AJ should have got some writing credit here, because that became such an iconic beat. You know?
Well, if you sampled it, people would have to pay money. It's like the James Brown thing. They never paid the drummer for writing, but if you use a drum break and sample it, then they sue you. So yeah.
Well, something that's that recognizable, because it's hard. Beats are really hard to copyright and prove, you know, as far as sampling. So I think Dee just said, hey, you know, come up with a shuffle. And he went boom, back, doom, he just right on the spot. And I've worked with a lot of people that they think they're playing it right, but they're not. I mean, the only guys that ever played that right as far as drummers was Mike Portnoy and Joe Franco. Every other drummer we've ever used never played that. Or a lot of drummers that I've done it with don't play it right. I remember one guy playing it and smiling at me. Hey, look what I'm playing. I'm going, yeah, what song is that? We're not going to take it. I said, it is. Because the beat was nothing like it, you know. And AJ was like as good as Mike Portnoy. He's one of the top drummers of all time, I think.
He drove the drive that he did with your band, because it always felt like even when you guys went fast, it never got away from you guys. It was even, you know, all those songs, it's never getting away from you. You know, it's fast, but not too fast. The groove stays while you get fast with him.
Live, we did things a lot faster than we.
But even live, it doesn't get away, but it never crosses that line where it's just speed, you know, just sheer speed.
Yeah, no. Well, some solos I actually had to change because at the speed we started playing them at, I couldn't get all the notes in.
Yeah.
You know, because I had written it to be at a certain tempo, and it was already a little, you know, fast, notey to begin with. And then once sometimes it would just take off. You know.
Yeah.
But
wait.
It was the energy. It was like we got. It always felt okay because it was what we would feel from the audience, you know. So
I got one. I'm gonna put both you guys on the spot, and Britt, you first, and I'll play along too. Top 3 Twisted Sister songs. Britt.
I would say, dude, shoot him down, because as a kid, being able to wait and scream that he's a masturbator, shoot him down. I obviously love The Price because it's about being in a band. And I love Be Cruel to Your School because that just meant so much to me as a kid. And I know those will not be the right choices, but those are mine.
They're all right because they're yours. I'll give you mine and then Eddie will go. And mine could change tomorrow, but always in my top two are Wolf Hoffman. Always in my top two. Can't Stop Rock and Roll, and not just of Twisted, period. One of my favorite songs. The Price, I agree. Always. And I mean, I could always rotate in my third favorite, but today I'd probably give you shit. Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard. But for three today, it would change in an hour, but I'm going to go like Captain Howdy today because I'm just feeling it. Eddie, top three.
It's kind of hard. I got
brutal.
That's what she said.
As far as financially,
no. Music only. Music only.
Music, the price is definitely there.
Yeah, we all agree on the price.
Yeah, because it's just a great ballad, and the solo is very meaningful to me. It's such a theme-based, it's kind of my version of theme from Imaginary Western solo. Like it's that very kind of with a Leslie West kind of vibe, and when I wrote that solo, I kind of thought of Michael Schenker and Leslie West trying to do something. That's where I came up with the run that leads into it. So then, then I'd probably say Burning in Hell because it has another.
Yeah.
It's such a theme song. The whole song is very geared and just the show that we do with it, with the lights and the, there's a lot of dynamics in the beginning when we start the song, and it's just boom, boom. When we go into that quiet groove, it's just a real show song. Also, What You Don't Know is such a great opener.
Oh yeah, you open that MTV concert with it, Jesus.
Welcome, good evening, welcome to our show. It's just, and the only thing is, it's a really fast solo. So I used to have to really warm up because right off, it was like it's like pitching 100 miles an hour on the first inning. It's like, so it was. That was always it was just a great opener. And
it's a stage song like Kiss had Detroit Rock City. I felt like as a kid, it's a stage song. It tells you what you're in for. It's like almost like well, you literally say, welcome to the show. Come on into our world.
Yeah, it's one of those songs. That's a good comparison because whenever a Kiss does that, it's just one of those songs that pull you in.
Yeah, you're into a universe.
And it's a great way to start the show. It was a little, like I said, I had to warm up because it was taken right from the start. It goes into a really fast solo and just a fast song.
Footnote to that: the intro track as the band's taking their place on stage before that is "It's a Long Way to the Top," AC/DC, and it's building and it's building, and the lights come down, the AC/DC song's on. You hear someone check a guitar like, and you're like, here it comes. Here, and then they just fucking tear it down.
It's so true, Adam. The last thing I wanted to say is like, dude, when I got that the first record, Under the Blade, I know there was, I think I Am Me I saw on the boardwalk before them, but you couldn't buy it. You had to win it or something. It was crazy on Seaside. But you guys always reminded me of the Warriors, the movie The Warriors, as a rock and roll band. And you've sampled it. There's some connection between you guys and that gang mentality, it seemed like.
Yeah, and we were the first guys to wear the rockers with the cut off jeans, with the like the motorcycle band, like a motorcycle club, the Twisted Sister rockers on the back.
Yeah.
Which again other people copied. And anyway, I won't go there, but it's that was kind of that whole image, and it definitely came. That's why Warriors was it was kind of like a movie that we all liked.
Yeah.
But, you know, the guy was so snivelly, so it was a good thing to, with the bottles. We actually wanted that actor to do it.
Uh-huh.
Because we got Niedermeyer, you know. So that was so when we approached him to do it, he just said he hated playing that role and it freaks him out.
Wow.
He didn't want to do the recording. Which I guess he must have had enough money at the time to turn it down. But
yeah, it's like a guy in a band that doesn't want to play his best song, though. You know what I mean? It's just like, come on.
Yeah, I just don't. Everybody knows you were playing a part.
Yeah.
But
that movie, that movie represents your guys' struggle and all the things, all the little things to get across the city, just to get to the record deal. So very, very symbolic.
Yeah, that's kind of why we used it on Come Out and Play album. So
thank you so much, Eddie, man. This has been amazing.
My pleasure, man.
Adam, do you have anything else you want to say before we go?
I got to tell you, and I've known Eddie a very long time. I know the band a very long time. These are great guys, a great band. They truly are a gang. This is a gang mentality, and it comes across on stage. It's one of the greatest shows you'll ever see. Hopefully we'll see it all again. And if you didn't see the documentary, We Are Twisted Fucking Sister, go watch the documentary. Spectacular.
On Netflix.
Yeah. Netflix.
Even if you're not into the music, it's a good story.
Oh yeah.
All bands go through that struggle. Everybody thinks, and another thing I just want to say, like, everybody thinks this rock star life, you live this, people feeding you grapes and fanning you and telling you bedtime stories. It's bullshit. It's like you miss graduations, you miss your kids growing up, you miss so much when you're on the road all the time. You miss out on a lot of stuff. You give up a lot for the entertainment business, and people should realize that. That's why there's a lot of tragedies in this business, because it's hard on people. It's not easy.
That's really.
I'll add this too, Brick, because I'll say it to you every time we talk. Thank you for what you do, because you keep it alive. You talk to the guys. You live it. You're all in. It's all heart and soul, and you keep sharing this and spreading it with everyone. And we all love you. It's great.
Thank you. And what you were saying, like the best thing out of music as you evolve, and like you say, you get away from thinking there's going to be you've had helicopters, I'm sure I never have, but is the friendships. You go, that's the most valuable thing. And this kills friendships, it makes. But when I asked Eddie, he said, any friend of Adam is a friend of mine. And that was the most beautiful thing. That I didn't have to say anything. That was it. And so thank you so much, guys. And hang out so I could say goodbye real quick, and we'll talk later.